the excitement regarding the newest Deadpool teaser trailer, I have to bring up the female version of Deadpool. We have to start off with Lady Deadpool. For anyone who maybe doesn't keep up with the Deadpool movies, in one of the latest teasers there was a shot of legs that everyone pretty much believes belongs to Lady Deadpool, which is just basically a confirmation that she will be in the movie. Lady Deadpool is a fan favorite character. She has all the attitude and humor of the Deadpool we know, but with a ponytail. Her name is Wanda Wilson, and she is from Earth 3010. She joins the Deadpool Corps and ends up being a major player in the whole Deadpool kills Deadpool thing. She is simply Wade Wilson, but a girl, so every power Wade has, she has too, including the power of being annoying, in a slightly endearing way. She was, according to one of her creators, based on Blake Lively and one of Lively's characters, Serena from Gossip Girl. Fans have been hoping that if Lady Deadpool is making her big screen debut, Blake would play her, because, well, she inspired the character, and also, she's married to Deadpool, Ryan Reynolds. I did see a comment on Instagram though that made me laugh. It said, what if the shot of the legs is actually just Ryan Reynolds in heels, and it pans up and he says something like, "What, were you expecting my wife?" I want to see Blake as Lady Deadpool, but if we can't get her, that seems like a good alternate option. Like father, like daughter, Crush is just basically the female version of Lobo. Nature wins out here in the nature versus nurture debate. She is so much like her dad. She saw one picture of him and was like, yeah, that's my real father. For reasons unknown, Crush crashed into the Burning Man festival when she was little and was found and adopted by a couple that was there. She had a sentient chain with her that protected her from harm. Crush eventually grew up and her adoptive family passed, leaving her with no one. She joined some fighting rings before Robin found her and asked her to join the Teen Titans. She did, and things were looking up. Crush has a lot of aggression living in her, so missions with the Titans is the perfect excuse to use it. She is super strong and has accelerated healing. She is also very good at intimidation, but I also don't think she needs to try that hard. Her look does half the work for her. Jacob Gavin Jr. is Courier. There was an accident and then he became Jacqueline Gavin. As Jacob, he worked with Gambit sometimes. The two went on a mission back to the 19th century once. While there, Jacob used his power, the ability to rearrange his cells, to turn himself into a woman to infiltrate a clinic run by Mr. Sinister. Mr. Sinister figured out who Jacqueline really was and turned her into a liquid state. When she was stabilized again, unfortunately, it removed her mutant powers, so now Jacob was stuck as Jacqueline. They took it in stride once they realized that there wasn't much they could do. Courier continued working with Gambit and helped him break into the Pentagon. If that's not friendship, I don't know what is. Eventually, Courier did get their powers back, but by that point they had been a woman for so long, they just continued to stay that way most of the time. It's also possible that she just didn't want to go through the process of turning herself back into a guy, as it's been said to take a long time. Aquaman is Aquawoman on Earth 11 and Negative 11. Both of them are good people. It's the Earths that are good and bad. Earth 11 is a good place where the Amazons inspired a bunch of women to change the world. That's how Aquawoman came to be. Earth Negative 11 is the bad place, where Bryce Wayne lost it and started attacking metahumans. No matter which 11 it is, Aquawoman is cool, and I live by that. When Bryce Wayne was attacking every metahuman on land, Aquawoman decided to protect her and her people by putting them all in self-imposed exile in the depths of the sea. Eventually, Wayne was done with the land and they emerged. Aquawoman tried to talk some sense into her, however it ended really poorly. Aquawoman was taken out. She was a really good ruler and loved by all of her subjects, so as revenge, they sunk Gotham City. Ride or dies, for sure. Aquawoman appears to be capable of everything Aquaman is, meaning she is super powerful and a force to be reckoned with. Wolverine's daughter, X-23, is another great example of like father, like daughter. Laura Kinney was artificially created by Sarah Kinney at the request of Facility. She used her DNA and Wolverine's DNA, mixed them together to create Laura, becoming her surrogate mother. X-23 was born and grew up in the facility and was raised to be a weapon. She eventually escaped with the intention of ending weapons like her, like for example, her dad, Wolverine. Wolverine managed to stop her and talk her into joining the Institute, where she was reformed and ended up joining a few X-Men teams. Like her dad, she has a super powerful healing factor and superhuman senses and reflexes. She also has the bone claws that were coated with adamantium, and she's a fan favorite character, much like her father, so her popularity armor is sure to revive her the way it does her dad. Sprite is now commonly depicted as a girl, but that wasn't always the case. Sprite started out as a boy that would never grow up. Sound familiar? Yeah, in the Marvel Universe, Peter Pan was inspired by Sprite. Sprite has one of, the most insane resumes I've ever seen. Inspiration for Peter Pan, child actor on a show named after them, and inspired the Shakespeare character Puck. When all the Eternals were wiped out and eventually reborn, that's when Sprite became a girl. She was still as mischievous as she was when she was a boy, and it was feared that she would act up again, so she was restored to the last safe version of herself, which means a few hundred years are just wiped from her brain. She did, though, wipe the minds of all her fellow Eternals, so it's kind of a fitting dose of karma. The main X-Men have all been gender swapped, and they exist on Earth 1007. They started out as we are used to seeing them, 616 style, but a monkey, an infertility ray gun, and a pop star changed all that. This Earth is from X-Men Millennial Visions 1. It was this big book with a bunch of art done by artists that might not typically get the chance to work with certain characters. All the universes here were possible futures for the X-Men. 1007 was set in 2004. And the villains here are Buzz and evil chimpanzee Bubbles. They build a Blanco ray emitter so they can render people infertile to control population size. The X-Men step in to stop them, unfortunately getting exposed to the Blanco rays in the process. Their X-Factor causes an unpredictable outcome to being exposed to the rays. Instead of becoming infertile, their genders are swapped. The team are unable to find a cure and now must get used to this pretty major unplanned change. Alright, into the big three, starting with one from the Marvel Universe, Thor. In the Earth X series from the late 90s, early 2000s, Thor was transformed into a woman. The reason was Loki. Loki is always the reason for something out of the ordinary happening to Thor. Thor was being a piece of work, though, in Loki's defense. In Earth X sketchbook, it explains more clearly what happened. It says, suggested the trickster Loki to Odin, it would be more appropriate for Thor, who had used his power to lust and lord himself over Midgard's peoples, to learn humility were Thor forced to live as a woman, the object of men's lusts. Now Earth 9997 has female Thor. This Thor's powers are dependent on belief. Thor has to believe he is powerful to be powerful. When he started to believe he could do anything, he could, and eventually gained the ability to turn back into his normal male form. Thor as a woman was great. Some fun character development was explored that they wouldn't have been able to do in the main universe, and female Thor is a fashion queen. She was apparently based on a what-if version of Jane Foster when she was the one to find Thor's hammer and became Thordis. Batman is commonly Bruce Wayne, but the Dark Multiverse, specifically Earth -11, introduced a new version of the hero, Bryce Wayne, kinda like a culmination of Batman's fears. Bryce Wayne is a woman and she has a very similar origin story to Bruce, and lots of the big things that happened to Batman happen to her too, like dating Selina Kyle, who in this universe is Sylvester Kyle. Sylvester is a pretty big deal to Bryce. His death is the reason Bryce went off the rails. Sylvester was killed by some metahumans, so Batwoman made it her life's mission to exterminate all metahumans. She actually succeeded in only 18 months. What she failed to realize is that some metahumans also existed underwater, so now she has to do it all again underwater. Aquawoman, who we talked about previously, tried to reason with Bryce, didn't go well, Aquawoman died, and in revenge Gotham City was drowned. In retaliation to that, Bryce genetically modified herself to be able to exist underwater and control water, and even control those fighting against her. While Bryce was doing that, she also created an army for herself of sea creatures called Dead Water. Eventually, Bryce joins the Dark Knights and becomes the Drowned. They proceed to be menaces across the multiverse. Bryce is ultimately taken out by Aquaman. Overall, Bryce is really cool, but a little scary, so I have no intention of ever meeting her. Presumably, she has all the intellect, power, and skills Bruce Wayne has, plus all those underwater enhancements. For a long time, people have been saying that if Tony Stark and Steve Rogers were dating, everything would have been okay and Civil War never would have happened. And it turns out, Marvel agrees, depending on how you look at it. Earth 3490 is home to Steve Rogers, Captain America, and Natasha Stark, Iron Woman. Natasha presumably shares a very similar history to her 616 counterpart, except for the, marrying Steve Rogers part. At some point, her and Steve Rogers, they became romantically involved, which prevented Civil War. They really said, spread love, not hate. Eventually, the two were married. Not much is really known about Natasha since she was from Dark Reign Fantastic Four 2. The panel she was in was when Reed Richards was searching for all the different Earths in which Civil War was avoided and was researching why. So it's kind of like just a quick glimpse at the world before skipping to the next one. There are other versions of the Iron Woman like 616's Bethany Cable, but she's her own person. 3490's Iron Woman is just gender swap Tony. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and make your mark on the comment section down below. Let me know which hero you think should be gender swapped next. This is Juliana signing off. Bye!